October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. And even though most states now have dyslexia legislation, there's still a lot of confusion on this topic. There's a lot of misinformation that gets shared. And so I thought I would choose some books that will help clarify and support you in the work that you're doing. In this video, I'll recommend 5 books for increasing your understanding on the topic of dyslexia. Obviously, I'm not saying you need to read all of these books, but if you chose one that fits where you are in your journey in understanding and supporting students with dyslexia, it might help take your knowledge and your practice to the next level. If you find this video helpful, subscribe to my channel and share it with one of your coworkers. I chose these books because they provide accurate research-aligned information that will help you to more accurately identify students with dyslexia and provide them with the instructional support that they need. There are links to each of these books in the description of the video, and if you purchase through those links, I may receive a small commission. Thank you for supporting Reading Science Academy. Okay, so let's get started with my #1 pick on the topic of dyslexia, and that is Kristen Sayeski's book, Unraveling Dyslexia. There are so many things I love about this book. Many people are not aware of this book, so I'm really happy to be able to bring it to your attention because I think if you haven't read it, this needs to go to the top of your to-read list. This book is excellent for parents who are deep into advocacy around dyslexia or have a child with dyslexia. It's accessible for teachers, and it's a must-read for all administrators. The book is focused around the factors that impact dyslexia. It dispels a lot of the myths and misunderstandings, and it's focused on effective instruction for students who have dyslexia. The book is organized around word recognition and language comprehension and provides excellent summaries of the research in those 2 areas. So even if you're not particularly interested in dyslexia, but you just want a good review of the research, this book will help you do that in those particular sections. The book also includes a really excellent and brief review of the history of education, sort of what were the actions and things that got us to where we are today. So if you are somewhat unfamiliar with dyslexia, if that's not been something that you've had much professional development around, if you are unsure about this topic, if you are thinking that all of these efforts in various states around dyslexia legislation are just about compliance, this is really the book that you should start with. And I would say that my key takeaway that you can expect from this book is that dyslexia does not have to be a mystery. It doesn't have to be a scary topic or something that we avoid. So my second recommendation is a book that's much more like a textbook. So if you already have deep knowledge of dyslexia, this is one that you could dig into. The authors are Jack Fletcher, Reed Lyon, Lynn Fuchs, and Marsha Barnes. You cannot get a more star-studded list of authors than these. This book is a deep dive into the research on reading disabilities. And although it does focus on dyslexia, since that's the most common of all specific learning disabilities, it is focused on not just reading, but also math learning disabilities and writing learning disabilities. There are sections in the book that frame the various specific learning disabilities around word level disabilities and a section around text level disabilities. And one of the things I love about this book is that it's all framed within the multi-tiered system of supports or MTSS framework. So it contextualizes dyslexia within that larger school improvement framework. And so I really appreciate that about this book. The key takeaway that you can expect from this book is that the old discredited discrepancy model of identifying dyslexia only through the difference between an IQ score and an achievement test score is something we should definitely be moving away from, and we should be thinking about and working towards identification of dyslexia that's centered around a student's response to effective instruction. So I love that about this particular book. Okay, shifting gears again for book number 3, Conquering Dyslexia by Jan Hasbrook. Jan is a parent of a daughter with dyslexia, and she's also a fantastic educator. If you're not familiar with her other work around coaching and reading fluency, you should definitely check it out. But this book is extra special because it is written by an educator from the educator perspective for educators, but also written from the parent perspective for parents. So you can see I've got many, many post-it notes in my copy, and you can see that it is not a textbook. It can definitely be used as a textbook, but it is not scary in its size or presentation. So this is one that's easy for you to dive into. So this book helps give information about what dyslexia is, what are the signs that teachers and parents can look for, what are the effective instructional approaches that can help students who have dyslexia minimize the impact of that reading disability. Lots of resources, lots of information that is connected to instruction. So very, very practical resource. And I would say my key takeaway from this book and what you can expect to get from it is that yes, dyslexia is real. Yes, it has real impact on students' academic performance and their life in general, but it doesn't have to be a negative experience. That the way that educators support students with dyslexia can, in fact, significantly impact their reading outcomes. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just because a student has a difference in the way that they are learning to read, that their brain is wired in a way that makes it difficult for them to learn to read. That doesn't mean they can't or won't learn to read, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working to get them to become readers, because those efforts will positively impact not just their academic outcomes, but all life outcomes. So, Conquering Dyslexia. Along similar lines is a very different kind of book, and in many ways a very troubling and disturbing book, Undiagnosed by Amir Baraka. So Amir is currently an actor and a dyslexia advocate, but this book is about his story. It's a memoir of his personal journey and how he grew up as a non-reader, the struggles that he had in school, his story of being incarcerated at age 14, convicted of murder, I think it was, and how that impacted the rest of his life. And then the transformation that he had once he learned to read in prison. And I have to say, this book is a gut punch in many ways. If you are thinking that all of this talk about dyslexia is just some kind of compliance, something legislators are trying to put on us because they want to tell us what to do. If you have administrators who are viewing the dyslexia legislation as just a box that they need to check, something to get through and move on, you should have them read this book. You should read this book yourself because it's a very personal and powerful and moving story of what happens when we as educators fail in our most important responsibility, which is equipping every student with literacy. I think that unfortunately you'll recognize your school, you'll recognize perhaps yourself, some of your colleagues in this story, what Amir's experience was as an elementary student. So very, very powerful. Definitely a book that you should read if you haven't already. And then my last recommendation is this edited text from 2020. The editors are Julie Washington, Don Compton, and Peggy McArdle. So it's a collection of various chapters by honestly a who's who of reading researchers. Everyone who you would expect, from Nadine Gabb to Yakov Petcher to Sharon Vaughn, Devin Kearns, Nicole Patton Terry. They all have chapters in this book. The book is focused on the causes of dyslexia, what the state of the art was around research about what causes dyslexia back in 2020, how we can intervene effectively for students who have dyslexia, and some recommendations on some of the policy that we could be implementing that would be supportive of students with dyslexia and, frankly, supportive of teachers who are trying to work with students with dyslexia. So I think one of the key takeaways of this book is that dyslexia is a language-based reading difficulty, and that we can think about it in terms of the biological and neurological origins that make it more difficult for some students to learn to read, but that does not mean that they can't. So a very powerful and hopeful message that is a takeaway from this book. So if you are already very familiar with dyslexia, if you want to go deep into the research, especially if you are a special educator, a special ed administrator, or coach, this would be a great suggestion for you. Okay, so remember, you can access links to all of these books in the description of the video. And you can see I have a variety of selections for people who are at different levels of knowledge about the topic of dyslexia. And no shame or blame if this is a topic that's unfamiliar to you. It is for many. And so hopefully these recommendations will allow you to take that next step in understanding how to support the many, many students who are right there in your school and classroom with reading difficulties, including dyslexia. For more support around dyslexia and other reading-related topics, check out the Reading Science Academy. I would love to support your work within that community.